Hey guys, and welcome back for those of you that just watched the 46 and 2 reaction with Nick. We just knew the discussion was going to go a little longer than normal, so we wanted to break it up. Callie's here with us, it's your turn, like we did with Robert. Nick's an open book, and we want to talk about 46 and 2, and we want to talk about some of the things that I might not even be picking up on as well. So with that, Nick, what do you think about this song 46 and 2? What do you think about the concept of evolution that they're toying with here with this one?
Yeah, I mean, okay, I think it's again it's very multi-leveled, right? I think that there's something purposeful in the way that the lyrics are constructed in all the songs. I think that there's a lot of effort and creativity going into composing the lyrics. I think we might be led to believe that there's some sort of physical evolution that could be possible, but I think really what's happening here is that there is a call for a spiritual awakening, right? To join in. I mean, this call of unity is in the end, what separates us and kills us is our individualism and our egoism. And the only way eventually, now as 8 billion egos living on this limited system called, on this closed system called Earth, we're going to make ourselves extinct unless we start behaving as a single organism, right? And working as a collective. And so join in right at the very beginning. I feel like we're being called to step out of the self and be part of something grander and greater for the benefit of all, right? That's my initial feeling right off the top. It's the core message of Kabbalah. It's the core message of many studies of spirituality. Yeah.
I love that you mentioned ego. I feel like that definitely has a lot to do with the lyrics in the song and the message overall. I feel like there definitely is a vibe of the collective and everybody kind of being one toward the beginning of the song, but I think what this song is about is the evolution beyond that, like what's next, right? If we're all already kind of in that space, and it refers to it with 46 and 2, which Andrew mentioned at the beginning of the listening, that it has to do with chromosomes.
Okay.
46 and 2 would refer to, and I think initially you think it's physical, but really I think it's like enlightenment is the theme. If you want to put up the image that I sent you, I think this illustrates really well like how ego ties into it. And when he keeps referring to the shadow, that's actually deeply rooted in the Jungian theory. If you take a look here, you have your ego and yourself, and then your shadow, right, is everything underneath, everything below, everything that's unconscious. A lot of times it's the stuff that we don't like, right? The more negative side of what's below our ego. And I think what this song is really speaking to is that in order to evolve to that next enlightened level, we have to move through the shadow, right? We have to explore what's there. He says towards the end, see my shadow changing, stretching up and over me, soften this old armor, hoping I can clear the way by stepping through my shadow, coming out the other side, step into my shadow, 46 and 2 just ahead of me. So I think it's crazy, like that's not something that we are even really capable of perceiving, right, by definition of what it is, but being able to go to that space and like finding a way to perceive it and work through it, I think is what this song's all about.
Yeah, I mean, I feel that.
That's definitely a very interesting. I've never seen that. That comes from Carl's works.
Yep.
directly from it. Yeah, and that's crazy. Yeah, that you brought up ego, not eagle, ego, before seeing that. Yeah, I was just examining it a little bit further with on the sides there with our consciousness
Yeah,
and collective.
consciousness, personal consciousness, collective consciousness.
These things exist outside of you, but they are part of the system, is what he's laying out.
I think it's.
And
I
then
think it's.
something,
Go ahead, Kelly.
no, go ahead. No, you go ahead.
No, I was going to say it's also interesting, this idea of the shadow being the things that we don't like about ourselves that we might need to confront. And of course, the ego is the identity that we build in front of our own eyes, the lie that we tell ourselves, everything that we want to believe, that, you know, that we're the protagonist of our own story, that we're the hero. I mean, nobody calls themselves the villain or the bad guy, right? Everybody's
Right.
always the good guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Well,
yeah.
and
Go ahead.
often it's true, like the traits that we observe in others that we dislike, like typically we possess those traits, even if it's under the surface. And I think that the shadow really captures that and refers to that whole concept.
Well, again, and I think this shadow. I mean, there's a lot of connection in shedding skin, and there's a lot of stuff that's harkening back to, which was it the very first song? Was it in Stink Fist with the snake and the
So that was, I believe,
That's
H.
H.
In H,
oh,
he
excuse
makes
me, in
reference
H,
to.
yes. And
Yeah.
so, I mean, I think that there's a lot of connection back to that snake imagery that also, I mean, the shadow is part of our identity. It's just the part of
Do
our
you
identity that we don't want to acknowledge, right?
take note, like what does it say under shadow there?
Animus. Okay, yeah, good.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, it's like another term for it.
right. Yeah.
Yeah, what I think is that he is, like you had said, in Latin, it's referencing soul, and that's exactly what Carl is referencing here as well.
Yeah.
That he's basically saying that that's your baser level, the stuff that exists below. Another way to look at it would be your soul.
I read somewhere, I can't even remember where I heard this, but something about Jesus having 48 chromosomes, allegedly. Like, I don't know how anyone can really confirm that, but that's something I've heard before. And I think that kind of aligns with the whole like enlightened theme, and that the 48 chromosome thing is next level, attaining enlightenment of another level. Has anyone ever heard that?
No, I've never heard anything
That's
about
specifically
that.
referencing Jesus. When I was looking through this, I actually saw that it said that gorillas have 48 total chromosomes, and so
Which I
maybe it's
think is,
accessing a more primal state, a more instinctual state, rather than this frontal lobe kind of haze that we put in front of everything that we look at. But I mean, that was just the way I looked at it, but not Jesus.
which is interesting because we consider ourselves to be more evolved than apes, right?
Absolutely.
So it is
Well,
kind of ironic. I read that
we
too,
are
and it is
we
kind
are
of
apes.
ironic,
We are apes.
right? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then again, you also look at, and I hate to bring it up, but you look at people that have chromosome imbalances, and to be honest with you, I've worked with a few, and they're generally way more happy. They're not consumed by some of these crazy little concepts that the rest of us seem to get consumed with.
Consumed.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, it's kind of like one of those things where maybe, we put ourselves in the position of protagonist, and we're not the villains. We're not even open to the idea that maybe, just with a brain that functioned a little bit differently, maybe ultimately we'd be happier, or we'd be better people, or we
Oh,
would
it's totally
see the world
true.
in a different way.
Absolutely.
Well, for me, I mean, there's definitely a lot of talk about transformation, metamorphosis is going on here, right?
Right.
And so the one thing that I get from Kabbalah is that it is a transformative experience. It's a transformative method that I don't work on my own. I have to work in community. I have to have a teacher who's qualified, who has studied, who's actually attained spirituality. I work with a group who accepts that teacher as their teacher, and we all work together towards the common goal. Now, again, spirituality in Kabbalah is is giving as opposed to egotistical taking. And there's that imagery going on in this song too, right? To kill, to die, to give, to take. I mean, there's, this is going on at in the end of the song, the litany of things that we must go through in order to achieve
Steps in
the
the process.
transgrade, right? And if we again look at what I do to my desires, my egotistical desires, I kill them, I die to my desires, I ascend to greater desires, I and so the whole idea here is even in spirituality, we've talked about this before, Andrew, that there is the idea of the good and the egotistical also in spirituality. There's the shells, the klipot, the things that draw us off track and don't allow us to actually attain higher. Like the feeling of, oh wait, no, I've already attained, I'm there, there's no more work to be done. Well, if you believe that, then you're not going to go any higher. It's a mistake, right? Or I don't need to believe anything, I need to know everything, and now I just get stuck in my egotistical desire to know everything, and I don't actually end up feeling anything. And the only way we have to discern if we are moving in the right direction is that if we actually achieve some sort of sensation of giving, some sort of real desire to give. And it's something foreign to our egoism, and it's crossing to the other side. It almost requires a miracle, right? And just coming out of Passover for us, I mean, that's the whole thing of crossing the sea. I mean, we're not able to do it ourselves. There has to be intervention, right? And so there's I mean,
it would take a miracle to actually physically step through one's own shadow.
Because just like Pharaoh, our hearts are so hard against it. We don't want to give to anybody. We want it all for ourselves, right? Yeah. And so for the soul, for the light to finally soften the armor, to make it, to penetrate so that we can feel flavor and goodness in giving, to reconnect to that divine spark. I mean, that's what all the work is. And I don't know if that's what they're talking about here, but I feel that there's a lot of that imagery going on, and I'm sure that there's an intention in the depth of symbolism that they're working with here. Anyway.
Yeah, these themes definitely run true throughout the entire album. We've listened to the first half of the album up to this point, and a lot of things we just talked about tie directly back to H, and even back to Stinkfist with the desensitization and the just constant needing more, but never actually feeling anything. So we're definitely on the right track. Even if you're thinking that these themes might not be where they were, it's where you are, and that's kind of the deal. So
anyway, cool. Kelly, you got anything else? I mean, I went off. I'm sorry.
I think it's great. No, I think it's great. I love getting your perspective. It's definitely like a different side of it, but an educated one, an intelligent one. And I appreciate that. It's super refreshing to just kind of see what you think about it. And I love that you're digging it. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's great. That just like we said, just the music alone was, I mean, it's.
Oh yeah, right when the track started, I could tell that you were like in it to win it. I love that.
Well, that and I like what I liked about it was it almost projects forward to Lateralis. Yeah, I remember at the beginning of I think when the first song we listened to was Reflection, and it had kind of that Middle Eastern beginning to it. I mean, you have this kind of you have this rhythm and this feeling of something foreign going on in the song. Is something, for sure. Yeah, it's very cool.
Yeah, and as we move backwards to Undertow, you're kind of going to see that same sort of looking back down the steps. These guys definitely took things from their previous work that they thought, we want to expand on these themes, whether they're lyrically or even musically. I mentioned it in H that you get that kind of Middle Eastern feel for the drums there that's really heavy, and towards the back half of Lateralis.
Yeah.
Once we get to the 10,000 Days album, there are entire tracks that are pretty much dedicated to those themes and those ideas.
Mhm.
And I wanted to bring up 10,000 Days as well too, because when we do the discussion around H and Jimmy, and we're talking more about Maynard's childhood, 10,000 Days plays on those themes heavily too. So
Oh,
as
yeah.
we listen to those tracks, we'll be able to harken back once we finally get there to kind of, so that you can kind of see, you know, he was here, and then a decade later when he did this other music, you can see, you know, kind of where he was able to go
Okay.
moving forward. So that's
Cool.
cool that you're able to kind of see the ties that bind the albums together.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's very it's great to experience it. I think we ought to get wrapping it up. Callie, it was
Yeah.
great to have you. I hope you join
Thank
us
you.
again, because without you, we're
For
just
sure.
a pair of ugly bearded dudes. And yeah.
Oh, whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, if anything, maybe we'll just have you back at the end of this album, because then we can talk about, you know, the title track and the overall.
There's a hand. So this is my favorite album personally, and I would like to probably be on 3 more tracks on this album.
All right. Well, you know, talk
For
talk
sure.
to
Okay.
talk to
Well,
the nephew producer.
If I'm invited, I'll be around and I'll be ready this time.
All right.
definitely we'll look into the last of the tracks there, and we'll talk more, you know,
Okay.
after we're done here. But in the meantime, you know, everybody out there, once again, hit all those buttons, throw a like on the video, throw up a subscribe if you haven't yet already. You know, tell us what you like about this, tell us what you think about 46 and 2, about this album. And for those of you out there that do want to appear with us, or at least want to talk with us, we're open to that. So reach out to us. We'll see what we can do to come together, you know, as the Tool Army or a Tool community. But thanks again, Callie, for being here. Thanks, Nick, as always, for, you know, sitting down and listening to this music with me and with everybody.
Thank you, everybody. Peace and love.